My daughter Lilia is 9 now. She was 2 years old. She was going to school here at Orfala, the child care program here on campus. She walks into the room and this thing is sitting on the table and she says, "Daddy, what is it?" And I said, "What do you think it is, mija?" And she says, "I think it's a spider." I look at her and I say, "It does look like a spider." And the scientist part of me is saying, she's super smart, right? I mean, it's got 8 legs. Spiders have 8 legs. She knows it's not an ant. She wasn't thinking any of that. Of course, she was probably just seeing the legs. And then I said, and I was prepared to walk off and sign her in and go to work. And then she said, "Actually, Dad, I think it's a duck." Why is it a duck? Why is it a duck? Yeah, the little spine, what's it called, stinger, right? On the back. It looks kind of like a duck. Some of you who are ornithologists might say something like it looks more like a great blue heron, but she called it a duck. And I said, "It does look like a duck." And I'm thinking maybe she's less smart than I should. I wasn't really thinking that. I was mostly just pleased she was looking. And then she looked at me confidently. She said, "I know exactly what it is. It's a spider duck." Absolutely delightful. What I find delightful about it is that nobody had to tell her that she was making sense of that just as she went, right? She was looking at the world and putting things together. I was less surprised then when a couple years later when my second child, her name is Sela, she's now 7, when she was about 2 or 3, she said, "Daddy, I hurt my leg." And I said, "Where'd you hurt it?" She goes, "Right here on my leg wrist." Not so many surprises, right? Not as surprised then as the first time. I was delighted by it because I could see her mind doing what her mind was designed to do, which is to take in information and make sense of it and put it together. Her mind was wild. The kind of wild mind that every child has. Whether or not they tell you is another question. I'm lucky because that child told me, right? So it's also delightful because of at least a couple of other facts. One is that it revealed to me, and I was only able to talk about this later, it revealed to me the way that she was seeing the world, right? Which is, in the first place, the world was there to explore, right? And I think children often have that walking into the world, right? Not only that the world is there to explore, but in a phrase that our colleague Eva Oxelson, who's actually here, I told her I'd give her props for this. Not only that the world is there to explore, that the world is theirs to explore, right? It's not just a kind of neutral ground on which you act. It belongs to them. It's there to explore. So she doesn't have, what is it? I'm going to guess, right? That's how kids work. That's how kids live. But not only that her relationship with the world was such that she believed it was hers to explore, but also that the people around her were resources on which she could draw and people to whom she could explain what she'd just discovered. Absolutely delightful, right? Delightful not just because of the way her mind was working, but because of what it revealed about the way that she saw the world and, frankly, the way she saw me, right? I was somebody not only that she could ask, but that she could tell. We could figure this out together. Okay? Some of you may be wondering if I ever told her that indeed this was a scorpion. I didn't at the time, but it wasn't because I was slick or smart or trying to let her explore. It's because I was reaching for my iPhone because I knew that I might want to tell this story and I needed to take a picture. Okay? This is the only slide you'll see all day. So what? Let's forget spider ducks for a second. I think we mostly have things we can agree on when we think about school. School works for some kids and it doesn't for others. We hear that all the time. School appears to work better if you're rich and lighter skinned than if you're poor and darker skinned. Even worse if you have an accent. Even worse if you don't speak English. That's a set of complaints, but you don't have to go very far outside your seat or this building to find people who will at least be willing to engage with you, if not agree with you wholeheartedly, and then maybe agree to lock arms and try to find a way to solve that problem. Okay? What else? The achievement gap, right? Another version of some kids do well in school, or school works for some kids and school doesn't work for others. You hear the litany of complaints from businesses. You hear the litany of complaints from politicians that kids don't come out well educated enough, they don't have skills, they don't have, right? We've got a collection of complaints about schooling, and then what? Well, so we had the opportunity to do some pretty bitchin' research, right? So, there's a guideline that says we're not to say bad words. Is bitchin' a bad word? Okay. We were allowed to do this, what I think was some really bitchin' research, is that we were invited to come in and see this school that was trying to tackle this really directly by having a dual language immersion model. These Latino students that they were really focused on trying to serve, as well as a bunch of English-speaking students, but really the school was designed to try to create a new environment where where kids who were traditionally underrepresented in schooling might have a better shot. And we said, sure, we'll come. And I'm an anthropologist, so we said, we'll come as long as I can bring a camera and film everything so I can analyze it later. I don't want to come in and I'll do some interviews, but mostly we just want to be able to analyze what's actually happening. And when we found out that they had a pre-kindergarten boot camp, it wasn't called that, it was called something like kinder prep or something like that, right? But a pre-kindergarten boot camp, we said, summer, can we film there too? And so we came, and it was 6 weeks. We got 6 weeks of life getting ready for school. And the kids came in on the first day and they were excited and the teachers were excited. And we also filmed for the next 2 years, okay? 3 years. But really intensely for that kindergarten year. So we got pre-kindergarten, kindergarten boot camp, and then kindergarten. In the back of our heads, in the back of all of our heads, we have these sets of complaints about what schooling does or doesn't do. By January of that first year, we had a new set of complaints because what we'd seen is a bunch of kids who came in often with some version of My Daughter Lilia, right? What's that about? What's that called? What do you got there? Kids that when they'd open a book would gather around it in these interesting bodily formations that looked like they were ready to do some like post-soccer game cheer. You know that cheer, right? Like, da, da, yeah, yay! They were like around the book, looking at the book together. And does anybody have another picture of a walrus? Things like that. Where they started out actively trying to make sense of the world, trying to find other people with whom to share or also learn, right? Where the world was a place to explore, theirs to explore, that by January we had a whole new scene, right? What was happening at January? We didn't have big achievement gaps because they weren't testing, right? Everybody seemed to be part of a family. It felt good. But what we saw instead of all those things I just described is we saw children doing things like this when another child would come close to their work. You know that gesture, right? Call it the shield. If there's manila folders, we used to have peachy folders as a kid. There's manila folders, you put those up too, and you look mean at the people next to you. Right. The shield, either with bodies or with folders. We saw kids that when the teacher would ask a question at the beginning of the year, it's like, well, you guys got to go hang out in kindergarten. At the beginning of the year, teacher says, I'm giving an example, what's 1 + 1? And everybody raises their hand. The first kid goes, 2, and the teacher goes, right. And then the hands stay up, and the teacher goes, yes. And the next kid goes, it's 2. And she goes, yes. And the next kid goes, it's 2. And sometimes the next kid will go, it's 3. And everybody's going, well, you just had 3 people say it's 2. What do you have by January? What do you have by January? What's 1 + 1? Hands shoot up. The same hands, though, right? Some hands stay down and have been down since November. Hands go up, and the first person who says 2, all the other hands go down like this. Oh. Right? You got it, I didn't. What else happens? Kids wait. Teacher asks questions, and the kids just wait. They wait for the teacher to give them an answer. So often enough, you have what's 1 + 1, and kids will just look at the teacher like this. Trust me, I've seen that in college classrooms. Where I'm asking a real question, right? And what happens is that everybody just waits for me to tell them what the answer is, even if I don't know the answer. Like, how many of you, I don't know, have ate pizza today? Or whatever. Look at some people are raising hands. So I got it. So what happens? So by January of kindergarten, what happens? It begins to look like this. It begins to look like the children have learned that the world is not only theirs to explore, right? But that other people are either competitors, right? For a place to declare what they know, or they're people who already possess knowledge. They're called the teacher, right? Other people are threats. And at least part of the time, other people are to be feared. Why else do this? Look at my work. Why else, when somebody else has the right answer, go like this? I didn't get called on. Or, this is the one I love, and that was my answer. Like only one person is allowed to know that 1 + 1 is 2. You take my answer. So what happens? Sure, we see these sets of behaviors, but we also see the world change for these children. Not all the time, but a lot of the time. And we see also the relationships with each other, with themselves even, and with the teacher also change. So what happens? It means that kids aren't taking the same kind of risks. Kids are waiting for instructions. That's easy if you're a teacher. That's good if you're a teacher, right? Kids are waiting for instructions. Kids are waiting for the teacher to announce what the right answer was. Kids are waiting for the kid who's the smart kid to give the answer first, or to be the smart kid who's the one who gets the answer first. Now we may say, well, that's just socialization into school, but from where I stand, right, that's a shrinking of the world. The world just gets a lot smaller. So by January, what you have is you have well-socialized children, mostly doing what they're supposed to do in school, but also you have a world that looks smaller, and children who look, from where I stand, just less fully human. That's a big claim to make, right? I'm not saying that kids, I'm not saying something as simple or maybe as easy as, well, these kids aren't learning their arithmetic. I'm saying these kids are learning to be less than fully human, and too many of them. Now, is it all kids? No, absolutely not. Do all kids run around going, is that a spider duck or a scorpion? No, it's not all kids. There's a huge diversity of kids. Some kids, my second child is one of these kids. She just waits. She waits till Lilia, the spider duck one, right, goes out and makes all the mistakes. And her younger sister just waits until the mistakes get done, and then she goes and does it the right way. She's not charging into the world. She lets other people sometimes clear the way. But in kindergarten, by January of kindergarten, what you have is a reduction of variability, is that so many of the kids are only visible as either smart or dumb, fast or slow, loud or quiet, obedient or not obedient. The range of possibilities for what it means to be human has shrunk. The world has shrunk for these children. The possibilities for learning are much more constrained. The analogy of a tree, it just feels like all the branches have been cut off, right? Okay, so what? Well, that would be a new complaint about schooling. It's not the same as schooling works for some kids, not for others, because suddenly, if we were to extend that out a little bit and say schooling doesn't work as well as we'd want it to for anybody, right? That if what it takes to have school work for you is to have your world shrunk, is to wait for the right answer from somebody who apparently knows better, not take a risk, not move off the beaten path. If that's what it takes, that seems like maybe it doesn't work for even the people for whom it works. Right? So what? Well, so what? Well, we get a new set of complaints about schooling where we might not just worry about the people who are underachieving, but worry just as much about the people who are high achieving. What have they lost in learning how to win that game? What else have we learned? What else is the so what? The other so what is, it's learned. They didn't start out that way. Which means, given our data, we could do it different. Right? That's what that means. That's the big so what for me. It's not, there's a so what which adds to the complaint, but there's a bigger so what which says that they learned it, which means they can learn something else. So how do they learn it? Guess what? It's not taught. I'll show you how it's learned. I only got, I'm taking up a lot of time, I know. I want to jump off the stage for a minute. I'll tell you how it's learned. You guys know around the world? Let me back up for a second. Raise your hand if you've ever heard the following. I'm not a math person. Keep your hand up if you've heard it from your own mouth. Yeah. All right? Bullshit. I'm serious. There aren't math people. Let me tell you how you learned you're not a math person. How you learned that the world of math was a path that you might not take. I'll show you. Ready? Eva, give me a 1-digit by 1-digit multiplication problem. 6. Another one. 28. Give me another one. 15. You played this game before? What happens if Zach got the right answer? I have to sit in his seat and he gets to continue, right? Why do we do games like that in school? Do we do it because we want kids to learn that they're not math people? Why would we do something like that in school? Why would we say, let's not work on a worksheet, let's play a math game? Why? I'm asking you seriously. Yeah?
quotes to make learning seem more fun?
I love how you put it in quotes. The air quotes fun. My daughter also doesn't know air quotes either, so she'll be like, hey Dad, can I have some French toast? Yeah, we want it to be fun, so that's what we do. We do it because it's fun, and guess what? People laugh, and they shout, and they clap. But some bunch of people, how many times do we have to play that game before what you learn is that you're not a math person? How about this? In school is the only place where we hear the following kind of question. Zach, what time is it?
Yes, 6:30.
Very good. That's the only place we hear that kind of sequence out on the street. If I say to Zach, what time is it? And he tells me the time and I say very good, he looks at me like, what's the matter with you, brother? School is the only place, right, where we ask that kind of question. What's the point of those two examples, math games around the world and what we call known information question sequences? It's that what we learn, all that stuff about the shrinking world, right? My own impoverished relationship with the world and others is not stuff that anybody teaches me. It's stuff that I learn because it's there in the background. How does that work? The math game. How many times do I have to fail at that math game before it stops being fun and I start learning that math is, first of all, only about having the right answer. It's about having it fast. It's about having it first. And then if I can't do that, math is not for me. I'm not a math person. How many times do I have to hear the question where the teacher already knows the answer before I start thinking to myself, the teacher knows better than I do. I'll wait for the teacher to ask the questions and to answer them. How many times? How many times does that have to happen before I, as a student, stop taking the risk to say, I think it's a spider duck? And do what instead? To say, what is that, teacher? Or better yet, don't let anybody know you don't already know. Get on your iPhone or get in a dictionary and look that sucker up. So that when the teacher shows the picture and says, what is that? You're the one with the hand up and you go, that's a scorpion. How many times do we have to keep redoing school before what we learn? Because it's there in the background. It's all around us before what we learn is that we're not to be trusted. Our neighbors are not to be trusted, especially if they might have the answer first. The teacher already has the answer. And if she doesn't, what the hell is she doing teaching anyway? And that the world is already well mapped. We just have to find maps. Forget entering the world. It's there in the noise. It's there in the background. It's not taught. It's the way we do it. But if it's learned in the background, then we could do something different and something else could be learned. Right? How would we do math to make it fun in a way that what got learned wasn't that thing that leads to, I'm not a math person? How can I engage with you as a teacher to his students in a way that doesn't make me seem the guy who already knows the answers and allows you to learn not only the information that I want you to learn, but also how to learn without me? Let me give you the beginnings of an answer. First, the fact. People are always learning more than one thing at a time. All the time. No matter what our main message is, it's always in the background. That is, whatever we do, we're communicating more than what we intend. And that's going to get picked up. Victor Rios, you guys were here for Victor Rios earlier. He said, teach the heart, the mind will follow. I say, teach whatever you want. Both the heart and the mind are learning all the time anyway. If I try to teach your mind, your heart's still learning. If I try to teach your heart, your mind's still learning. You're learning who I am, who you are, and what the world's going to be for you in the background of whatever I do. It's there. The messages are there. So what to do? Given that people are always learning more than one thing at a time. Geez, that's complicated. It would seem that the right answer would be to then proceed with caution. Make sure you get it right. If you are learning more than one thing at a time, and I got to worry about how you think about the world and yourself and me, and I'm also trying to get you to learn arithmetic, oh man, I'm exhausted just thinking about it. Let me tell you, the answer is not to proceed cautiously. The answer is to proceed throwing caution to the wind. What does that mean? It means make mistakes and make them loud. Try stuff out. Make mistakes publicly. Be dumb if you don't know the answer. Tell people you don't know. Be outrageous in your refusal to do things the same old way, because let me tell you this. We keep doing things the same old way, and kids are going to keep learning the same old thing. And that same old thing they're learning is, from where I stand, a tragedy. That if we just tried to activate our imaginations and do something different and make mistakes big, and when a kid has a good answer, when a kid says spider duck, we said, that's awesome. I call it a scorpion, let's call it a spider duck. What if we responded that way? I think things might be different. I wish I had a cute way to end. I don't, and I don't want to just shout at you, and I'm already 3 minutes over. Let me say this. Every time I'm invited to speak, I feel renewed. This is my 3rd time speaking. Every time I feel renewed. And it's because of you all. Not just you all who are in this room, but you all who are willing to see what new ideas are out there and be the kind of people I would really like my kids to be. Inquiring, curious, eager, excited, where the world is yours to know.